It is good to read at least twice or thrice a day so that your mind starts looking life from a different perspective. So I'm not covering those three sections. So we will start with the first step today. So the first step today, before that, we should recall some of the simple principles and simple common sense understanding. The human race can receive the knowledge, can retain the knowledge, can realize that knowledge. We have not seen any living species except the human being have opened the school in the universities for receiving and retaining that knowledge. It doesn't mean that animals cannot learn. They learn based on their instinct. You give them fear, you give them bite of a food, and then they learn. What is the difference between we human being? We have a free intellect, we can receive and retain that knowledge. So when we can receive and retain the knowledge, there is a problem. The problem is that if the mind is dictating over the intellect, it always loves to receive the knowledge it likes or dislikes. It will receive the knowledge based on the pleasure present in the world. It is looking for everything in the human life can be attained from the world outside. That is what the entire animal kingdom is doing. You cannot put lion, yes, you can put it into the cage or the zoo, but still you are aware you create that kind of an environment. So they stick to the nature. Because of that knowledge, the intellect adapts itself. Intellect and the knowledge it helps us to live either in a single family home, you are a builder, it can live in a skyscraper, it can live in Alaska, it can live anywhere. So, because of that, receiving and retaining the knowledge, we have a higher level of adaptation and adjustment. We cannot get carried away by the mind, which is impulsive, which is instinctive, which is habitual. So, once we reflect on this, perhaps I have covered this topic in many different ways. So, when you might have started, your mind has started reflection. That is why you said, oh, I realized that it is the goal of life is to find the real self. That is it. But that is just the beginning. Yeah. That is just the beginning. That is just the beginning. Another point to understand, did anyone send you the SMS or email message? Tomorrow, when you wake up in the morning, get angry, get upset, swing your mood, get obsessed with anything. Nobody sends us the message. Yeah. And still we find obsessed, still we find emotional dependence, still we get upset. We get upset. We never think why, what is the cause of becoming upset, what is the cause of my reaction. and I want to rationalize, blame, and complain the world outside. So, as long as we blame, complain the world outside, one, as long as we are seeking happiness, peace, love, truth, and wisdom outside from the world, as long as I am running after the world, we have tried this. We have tried this days, weeks, months, years, and still we are expecting a result not possible. So our masters points out that do you seek peace and happiness? Yes. Ask yourself why. Oh, what a crazy question. Our mind instantly responds. Mind is impulsive. That is why it responds. No, no, we want to know the answer. An answer is so simple that if my nature is stress, struggle, and the suffering, if my nature means if my inherent nature is stress, struggle, and the suffering, I don't want to remove it. I cannot remove it. Nature of a sugar is sweetness. So what do you mean by the nature? You remove the sweetness, it is no longer a sugar. In all our events, thought, speech, action, relations, mind internally by default is seeking peace, happiness, love, truth. Oh, it means what? It means it proves that my nature is peace, happiness, love, truth, and wisdom. That is why I am seeking. Stress, struggle, and suffering are not my nature. That is why I want to get rid of it. If it is my nature, if the stress is my nature, I will say, ha ha ha, very good, thank you. This is my nature. I want more stress because that is my nature. It is so natural to me. No, stress is not natural. Unease is not natural. Emotional dependence is not natural for me. Failure is not my nature. Fear is not my nature. Frustration is not my nature. Anxiety is not my nature. Duality is not my nature. That is why I want to get rid of this. I want to get rid of the insecurity. It is not my nature. So when we reach to that clear understanding, then this mind asks, then what is my nature? Then tell me freely. Why I experience we need to contemplate. You see that complete ignorance is bliss. American proverb, ignorance is bliss. And same way, complete knowledge is also bliss. See the difference between the two. You are in deep sleep. You are not at all aware who you are, what is your age, gender, nationality. You are not even aware of the body and the mind, intellect, thoughts, feeling, past, previous, future, projects. You are in a complete ignorance. Deep sleep. And when you come out of the deep sleep, sound sleep, you feel that you are totally fresh, peace, and happy. If you have dream, then you are not truly relaxed. So complete ignorance. So what is there in complete ignorance? You are not aware whether you are body or the mind, what problems the mind has. You are totally ignorant. Only difficulty is that I don't recognize what happens in deep sleep, so that when I come out of the deep sleep, I find I am in bliss. Second reason, that my even I have a sound sleep every day, it doesn't change my life. I may have a sound sleep. Every day I wake up in a peace and relaxed and happiness, bubbling with the energy, and then I follow the same instinctive, mental, habitual routine and conditioning in my life and start seeking peace and happiness outside. Again, I enter into the stress. There is a stress, struggle, reaction, etc., etc. That journey of the life is a mix. I know something, I have a knowledge, and still I am ignorant about what the life is, about who am I. So if I remove this ignorance, this mixture from the mind, and I reach to a complete complete knowledge of who am I. We already know it clearly. We have a valid argument. We have a conviction, unconscious conviction that has to be brought at the conscious level. What conscious conviction I have? In every situation, I want peace and happiness, love and wisdom. It is by default. Tell me who wants stress? Who says that I have put into agenda tomorrow I will be in stress and I will enjoy? It is not my nature. So indirectly I understand this, that somewhere who am I is of the nature of peace and happiness. And that is something to be understood. There is something to be discovered. That is what we say, the Eastern wisdom aims at self discovery. Self discovery. So when the intellect contemplates and reflects, the intellect does not allow the mind to be dictated by the conditioning that I receive from my parents, from the culture, society, religion, near and dear ones, and their friends. When I decondition the mind, the intellect says, now I can start the search. Who am I? So our master says that now are you clear the source of peace and happiness is not the world outside, is not your mind out inside. The source of happiness, you are the source of happiness. You are the sweetness of a sugar. Whether you make a cube of a sugar, granules, powder, sweetness never changes. That is what happened. Listening and learning, perhaps your mind reached to that state of conviction that I have to find the real self. Primary goal of life is to find the real self. Secondary goals are wealth and pleasure, etc., etc. But we will also understand what is the role of wealth in the journey of the self discovery and the possessions. What is the role of a pleasure in the journey of the self discovery? Gradually, we will understand step by step. That is why I say that Eastern wisdom is a self awareness program. It is emotional freedom program. It is mental transformation program. It is self awareness program. It is conscious evolution and transformation. All these aspects leads us to realization of the real self. So can I say you have passed the first step? You started with a curiosity, and that curiosity turned into an intense contemplation and reflection over these weeks and months. And ultimately, when the mind says, "This is, I want to know," the real self. It is very challenging to keep that goal until you realize it. Very challenging.
To keep the goal of finding real self?
Yes.
Why is it so challenging?
Because the mind returns with those conditioning, those impulses and habits.
Yeah.
That is what we say, the mind is impure. Unless we remove the impurity of the mind. So when the mind is purified, it will not dictate the intellect. So then the intellect will live with that goal. But to recognize and accept is a great achievement. It is.
It's just the beginning now. It's just the beginning.
It is just the beginning. So that is why I told you the first 3 sections I have left it for you to read. We directly move to the first step. So this text can be written in 2 pages, front and the back.
Okay.
That contains the 40 steps. So this master has compressed it. This book, he made it as a zip file. And every word has many files. Every zip folder has many files.
Grace, how could somebody read your, if somebody doesn't understand, like I've been working with you for 3 years, how could somebody read your book without working with you at the same time?
That is why we have a master and a disciple tradition.
Yeah.
That is why we say listening and learning from a teacher, so that what is written in the book is still very compressed form.
Yeah, but like they would need somebody like you while they're reading it so they can understand
They
it.
can understand it. But why I said the first 3 sections, now you can read, because now your intellect has recognized the goal of my life is to find the real self. So once you read the first 3 sections, I will not waste our time, precious time every week on the first 3 sections. We will directly go to the section 4.
Okay.
So section 4 of the book there are 5 verses. Every verse has 4 lines. And every line contains 2 principles. So 5 verses, total 20 lines, contains 2 principles, 40 principles. So, with my understanding, with little understanding, I have explained that, and then we will go through it each and every step. Whether we have really understood the intellect. One thing more, when the intellect has a conviction on the principle, you can get rid of the impurities of the mind easily. But it does not, it has a lot of doubt, it does not have a conviction. The mind returns with its impulsive nature and instinctive nature. That is why not only the company of a teacher is required until we become a qualified seeker, until we continue the journey. Maybe. Now you are talking of 3 years. I remember my master told all of us, a student asked that, how long I will realize the real self? It has been 5 years I have been coming to you. So my master started laughing and he said, he narrated the incident that took place with his master. So he spent about many years, almost 7 to 8 years, and he was not able to, his intellect was not able to understand and realize. He, at the same time, he was doing all the practices, he was totally dedicated, he was living in a forest. So one day he went to his master. My master went to his master. Said that enough is enough. Now leave me, give me the permission. And I have already spent, 7 or 8 years. And now I will go into the world. I'll open a shop of the tea because I'm totally illiterate. I cannot get a job. But his master also laughed and asked him that how long I have been living into this forest. 40 years. That is what I heard. His master said, for you it is 40 years. For me it is not even 40 hours.
What did he mean by that?
There's a sense of intensity in the mind. That I'm not frustrated how much time I have spent in this. A sense of patience is there, a sense of calmness is there, that I will definitely get it. That sense of conviction, intensity, a determination means that those 40 years is not even 40 hours. My master looked at him and said that if that is so, then I left my entire life at your feet. And within a week, everything happened. But it cannot be manipulated. I cannot manipulate. After learning this story, I can. Yeah. If I manipulate, it means I'm cheating myself. It must come from you. It must be a revelation. The way you reveal, yes, this is the goal. You should have told me in the first month of your meeting with me, I should have started this. You did not tell me, so I was waiting. So the teachers in the Eastern wisdom, they keep on waiting. They keep on waiting. They understand where your mind is going. They understand, but they will give you a different response depending on your journey. We are not allowed. And we are not allowed because that knowledge is not fully digested, assimilated into the intellect. It will not work unless you contemplate and reflect. So when you contemplate and reflect, you are a seeker. I say there is a real self. But your mind, your intellect is overpowered by this statement that I am the real self, but I don't know. I have to find out. Then your 40 years is not even 40 hours. Well, now you have a conviction. That makes you a great seeker. So if I pick up the first verse and first 2 lines of a verse, there are 4 principles. First principle, this master says, I should listen and learn from a teacher and receive the knowledge of what is real self. Intellectual knowledge, followed by the practice. I should know what is real self, and I should also know what is not real self. That is the first principle. Mind that is crazy, mind that is heavily conditioned, mind that is impulsive and reactive. You already told me the story that you gave 200% to a girl. Yeah, girls are beautiful, so we should give 200%. You don't give me, I'm a beer guy. What you get? 200%. So, what happens once your conviction is there? From that conviction, we raise the doubt in the mind about what you think you are. Why? So that you understand what is not self and you can easily drop it. How? So we say there are two eyes present in you. Out of the two, one eye is the false. We will understand what does it mean by the false, and one is the real. Is your intellect reflecting? I just discussed about it because I'm seeking peace and happiness. I never thought of seeking peace and happiness, love and wisdom in my life. But still, mind is constantly seeking peace and happiness, love, truth, and wisdom in the world. All the time. Do you want happiness in the morning? Yes. Do you want happiness in the afternoon? Yes. Do you want in the evening? Yes. Do you want in the night? Yes. You can never say that only in the morning I want happiness, not in the afternoon. It proves that I am the real self. Only one thing that I don't know, I don't realize the real self. So, journey of Eastern wisdom is to realize the real self. But every time I make an effort, I fall into insecurity, dissatisfaction, unhappiness, even after giving 200%. You give me only 50%, that is enough. That is the first principle. We will discuss the second principle. The moment I understand.
Let me use the restroom before we start the second principle.
Yeah. First principle. So the first principle is to understand clearly what is the real self and what is the false self. Now, when I have recognized what is the real self and what is the false self, then there is a big challenge that how to live my personal, professional, social, and family life. That was your question. So you see that when you do, those revelations are natural. You can never think of it. You have reflected on this question after 3 years. 3 years is equal to 3 hours. So the second question is that then how I have to live, think, and speak in the world outside so that I can continue to purify the mind. That is our second. So now both are related. But then I have lot of emotional challenges. I get emotionally dependence. So the third principle is how to achieve the emotional freedom in my daily living. And the fourth is what exactly is the desire? What is a binding desire? What is the unbinding desire? So we will discuss and understand these four principles clearly. What will happen? I'm just summarizing. What will happen once we apply these first four principles in our life? These four principles will work as a shock absorber. What do you mean by shock absorber? Let the world outside cause you unseen, unimaginable trouble in your life. Shock absorber is there. You can face any challenge and every challenge in your life. What happens then? Your mind is more inclined. You have such an intense desire that I have only covered the four principles, and it has brought the sense of emotional freedom. It is very easy to deal in any relationship. It is just like a play and a fun. I have used play and a fun many a time. Internally, you become so strong. You recognize that peace and calmness is your strength. Normally, in the world outside, people say their ego, their selfishness, their recognition, their wealth is the source of their strength. But you recognize inner peace and the calmness and your higher level of awareness. Huh? Then you don't even give 200%, you give 500% minus emotional dependence.
So is that what I did wrong? I gave 200% but was emotionally attached? Is emotional dependency and emotional attachment the same thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we learn these four principles, especially the third principle, educates our mind and the life what exactly it means the emotional freedom, what is emotional dependence, what happens in emotional dependence, what happens. So what happens? You are understanding with reference to the false I and the real I. So there is a clarity, and you can change your thought and speech and action based on the wisdom. So you are not getting carried away by anyone in the world. In fact, that is why I made a statement couple of times to you that I enjoy being exploited by everyone. I hate to exploit everyone.
Why?
I enjoy because people are unconscious, habitual. Because of their habitual, instinctive, impulsive, and emotionally dependent nature, sometimes people say, no, no, we are ready to pay you any damn thing, provided you guide us. Okay, I know what you can do. No, no, I will do that. So, false I thinks, speaks, and lives and acts which we are not aware with a sense of exploitation. Will you do this work? Yes, I will do this work. I'll pay you $100. Exploitation starts. I love you. I will promote you in the job. Do you know that I'm the boss? Exploitation begins. I don't see the best quality, the level of awareness in a person. So when I check that he lives with that level of self awareness, this guy is not going to cheat himself, not going to cheat anyone. We never see that. I'm just giving you an overview of the first four principles. First principle, that I have to recognize there is not one I, there are two I's. One is the false I, other is the real I. From where we have to understand, we have to recognize the false I first. We don't know anything about the real I. So the more we recognize the false I, and there is a clarity, then the false I poses a lot of challenges in the personal, professional, and social lives that we recognize. So, what to do with that? So, the second principle comes into life. What is the second principle? How to think, speak, and work in daily life. What is the center of my thought, speech, and action? When? All the time. Where? In all the locations. With whom? In all our relationships. A sense of equanimity enters into the mind. Your mind is not naturally moving towards the exploitation and emotional dependence or likes and dislikes. Why? It is clear. False I has a property of these things. But I have to also realize that in what way then I have to think, speak, and act. That is the second principle. They are known as the conventional methods while living your personal, professional, and social and family life with a proper attitude. You have started purifying the mind. That is what I have repeated hundreds of times because of the impurity of the mind. So the moment you wake up in the morning until you sleep, you are constantly on the run to purify the mind, living your personal, professional, social life. That needs to be properly. So he made it only as single half a statement. But then we have to go, we will open this third one. Still, when we continue to live our life purifying, living the personal life is one thing, but carried away by the emotions is one thing. It's totally different. You are extremely intelligent in your business, but emotional dependence let you down. You see the two different things.
Yeah.
So that is why the third principle is that how to bring a sense of emotional freedom. Why should I not be carried away by the emotional dependence in any situation, in any challenges? Whether it is a challenge posed by a man or a woman or near and the dear ones or a stranger, let first check, am I in that emotional balance and the poise? Mental calmness is there. At the same time, I recognize here is the problem. I feel the problem because of emotional dependence. I don't see the problem in that emotional poise. I recognize my fault, how to correct that notion. Okay, then how to redirect that emotion which causes the dependence where to redirect that emotion that will result into emotional freedom. That is our third principle. But the basis of foundation of all emotional dependence and events and situation and frustration and insecurity are located in the desirer, in me. Desirer who desires. So there we understand clearly desire is the desire and necessity of the life. Okay, if yes, then what kind of desires have a necessity in life? It is must. It is important. And what are the other desires that are not required into my system, into my life? Well, if I seek those desires, what it does, how these desires become a binding desire. What is binding desire? It is an element of emotional dependence, it is an element of frustration, it is an element of insecurity, it is an element of imagination, it is an element of obsession, it is all these causes lot of trouble. So we will understand clearly. If the desire, what is exactly is the desire? What are the four factors that through which the desire works? And then what is a binding desire? What is unbinding desire? Unbinding desire has no problem. You just told, wait, let me go to the restroom. So there is a desire. Mind cannot live without desire. At the start of the session, you say that I'm just taking my dinner. That is also a desire to meet my hunger. It is not causing any problem. So it is unbinding desire. First four principles. I have to know real self versus the false self very clearly. And the intellect should receive that knowledge, it should reflect and contemplate so that you can retain the knowledge. I have to say something higher. I'm using it in a very simple language. So, receive the knowledge, one aspect. Second R is retain the knowledge, second aspect. Because when you retain the knowledge, then only you can reflect the knowledge. When you reflect the knowledge, you also realize that knowledge. When you don't know a thing, you are ignorant about mouse. So you have a knowledge that you don't know what is this. Very high, but I'm using a very simple language. I know that I don't know what this is. I know. Now you tell me that this is a mouse. Now I know what is this. Are you getting it?
Yeah.
Now
So what do you?
apply the same thing. First time I met you, I did not know who you are. After meeting you, you told me your name and your profession, etc., etc. So now there is a knowledge about you.
So what's your point?
Anytime, even after 10 years, you meet me. There is a knowledge about you in the consciousness.
Okay.
My mind may forget, but I still have a knowledge in that consciousness. So then you meet me after 10 years and you ask me, don't you know me? I'm this. Come on. So knowledge in that consciousness is already present. It goes into the mind. I said, yes, I know you now. What is my point? When you understand, you receive the knowledge, you retain the knowledge, you reflect the knowledge, you realize that that knowledge never you never forget. Mind may forget the knowledge. Mind is a short term. Oh, where I have kept my keys, Keys is definitely there somewhere, but I forgot it. But the consciousness knows that keys is somewhere here.
Yeah.
So that is what triggers the mind to keep on searching where I have kept it, and you found it. Very simply explained, but very hard principle. Why it is a hard principle? The knowledge in the consciousness is always present that I am the real self, but the mind prevents it. Because mind prevents it. Mind does not know. Mind lives in ignorance. The mind says 200%. But that is emotional dependence. That causes the fear, frustration, insecurity, dissatisfaction, unhappiness. Because of the.
Why do you think we do all of these things that cause us unhappiness? Like if we, I mean, I don't understand. Why is this just the human mind? Why does it do this?
We will get answers of all these questions in 40 steps.
My king.
Don't jump.
Oh.
So the second question, so then what happens, and you get the answer even in the second principle. How when I recognize that I'm the real self, but I'm continuously living and struggling with the false self, mind identifies most all the time in all the locations with the false self. That is the reason which causes me the insecurity, fear, failure, and frustration and anxiety, etc., etc. So the second principle is obvious, that how I should start living in a fresh way internally with the right and proper attitude in my personal, professional, social, and family lives. That is known as karma yoga. Karma means Sanskrit word, it means action. How many ways we perform action? Thinking is also an action, speaking is an action, and physical activities is also an action. Karma means action. And here, yoga means the right, proper, good attitude in the mind from which the action takes place. So, right, proper, good state of the mind, attitude of the mind expresses itself in thought, speech, and action. When it is right, I understand it. When it is proper, I understand it. When it is good, I understand it. And that expresses itself in thought, speech, and action in my personal, professional, social, family life. What happens? I'm not in stress. I've taken the right action. You have a conviction. Throughout the day, until you retire to the bed. In one way, that is known as the karma yoga. But the karma yoga does not release us from the emotional dependence. So we have the third step. After all, my crazy mind has to redirect this emotion to have a feeling of belongingness, sense of belonging, sense of caring and sharing, sense of so-called in the modern life hugging, de-hugging. Thank you, bye bye. So, sense of belongingness. So here comes the third principle, which we will understand and reflect on it. What is that which will not cause emotional dependence even if I am attached to it? Anything that is changing in the world, and if we have an emotional dependence, it will definitely cause insecurity, frustration, failure. So I have to learn how to direct my emotions to one thing in my life, even if I'm attached to that, it keeps me in the state of emotional freedom. Then that emotion of love blossoms in my life.
When what? When you're continuing to search for what's real?
No, third principle. First is very clear. What is real self and the false self?
Yeah.
So second principle is that how to apply a karma yoga in my daily life with a proper right and good attitude in the mind. That state of the mind is clear. And then I express in thought, speech, and action my personal, professional, social, and family life. It becomes a play and a fun. But still, in the third principle, still that sense of emotional dependence continues. That is the third principle. So then we have to understand what is that one thing. If I redirect my emotion to that thing, leaves me in the state of emotional freedom.
Okay, so what is that thing?
Wait. I'm just giving an overview. What is that? Because the answer will come from the first two principles. When I go in detail, the answer will, you will say, oh, is this? I will say yes. So
When I
if I tell you simply intellectually, it will not help you. Wait, we will open up the first two principles and you will get an answer of the third one. You want to jump so high, and then still some challenges are left.
I know that.
So, what challenges are left? It pertains to the desire. That is what you asked. That what do you mean if I find a real self, then I should not seek any kind of a pleasure, etc., etc. So I answered totally in a different way. So you jumped very too far. So the first three principles automatically your mind, your intellect will reveal.
Okay.
Oh, this is what you are talking about. It is so simple. And the moment you say, well, it is so simple, I'll say, why didn't you realize in the very first month? I told you the same thing. That is what happens. Everyone has to evolve. That depends on the existence. That depends on the existence. The way the existence has so called created me has put those impressions in my life so that they trigger and we are thinking, speaking, and acting in the way the existence wants us to do that, to evolve. So the fourth principle when we will open what exactly is the binding desire, what is the unbinding desire, and what is the ultimate desire. Let us categorize into three categories. Now, what happens? No, I am very clear from the step one what is real self and what is false self. I have already made up my mind. I resolve that my goal of life is the self discovery. So, is that a desire? Yes, this is the ultimate desire. But if I don't recognize what is binding desire and what is unbinding desire, I will mix up all the three. So I should have a clarity. I should be very clear what I am doing at this moment. So I have a knowledge. It is ultimate desire. Do it. It is binding desire. Stop it. You internally stop. You change the direction
of the thought process.
through the thought process. So, what happens after the thought process, rightly understood, that you live in a higher awareness. Now, when you live in higher awareness, you need not to think. When you appear before me, I need not to think about your name, why you have joined me, why you are talking to me. I know.
Because you know.
Simply we know. Knowledge is there.
So what you're saying is if I have this knowledge of the real self, then I don't even need to think about it anymore because I will just live that way.
Very easily said, easier said than done. But I will say other point. Answer is yes. But the moment you transact in the world, you have to think, speak, and act. But that thinking, speaking is so natural. It doesn't cause any trouble. It does not make you any hardship. But when you are with yourself, only knowledge, no need.
But when I'm out in the world, even though I have to deal with people, I still have to live in knowledge.
Yeah. But you have to, yeah, but with that knowledge now manifest as a thought, speech, and action.
Yeah. Oh, so I even will be acting and talking different.
But your quality of your speech and your thought and your action is full of calmness and a compassion and love and the wisdom.
Yes. Okay. Let's stop there. What would you like for lunch on Saturday?